and welcome to another session of Tech 1-2. I'm Rolando, founder of Global Tech Worldwide. I'm so glad you joined me today. On today's session, we are going to answer how to convert better when using video, and specifically when using the Poly Studio P5 and P15 webcams. And we'll do a little bit of unboxing as well. So let's go right into it. One of the things that has become apparently crystal clear since the pandemic of our short life, my short lifetime, is that video is becoming a greater role in how you conduct business, whether it's a simple online meeting or where you're doing full-blown customer presentations. You want to put your best foot forward every time you get on camera within your means. You know, if you don't have thousands of dollars to throw around for a studio and a set and everything else, you know what? We've got the products just for you, because the P5 and the P15 both answer a budget friendly question, which is, can I get something decent under 200 bucks? And then if you want to go above that, we've got a product for you that provides a whole lot more features. If you're in a classroom, if you're talking to customers and you need to move around and you need something that focuses just on you. So the P15 will address some of those concerns. So Ori, let's show the folks what we're talking about. Let's go into, do we have, there we go. There's our P5. So I'm going to do a little bit of unboxing, just show you what you get in the box. This is a new product from Poly, which is a result of a merger of Polycom and Plantronics. They're now called Poly. This is the P5 webcam. That's the entry-level version. It comes in this nice blue box. Okay, and it says Poly right on the side, Poly Studio P5. So in that box, from when you buy this particular product from us, you're going to get a bonus cloth in the bag, and this allows you to clean the lens and maybe use it for your glasses. I know I use this for my own glasses, so you'll get an extra bonus in there, and you may get a little thing on the back that tells you thank you for being a customer, and you know, just give us some feedback, that kind of thing. We appreciate your feedback. So if you're listening to this and you're bought a P5 or P15 or some of our other products, your feedback is always appreciated and makes it better, not only for us but also potential customers. And if there's something we didn't do right, just let us know. We want to do what we can to make it right. Okay, so the P5 in the box, you get the camera, and there's really not much else in there except just the P5 by itself besides that bonus cloth. I'm just going to take this out of the way and just show you what that looks like. All right, it comes with this little glass strip or this little plastic, but what you do is just a straight up USB cable. So just plug that in your computer and you're good to go. A couple of things that I do want to point out before I jump into a few more on how to use this device to make you sound and look better. As on this device, you do get a dismountable webcam, and it's a magnetic mount, so it comes apart. So now this is one of those things that separates this from many of its competitors. You cannot do this with your just a regular old webcam. So if you wanted to show close-ups, which we're going to show you in a moment, of a particular product, let's say I have I'm just going to reach around over here. This is a product that we sell, and you want to show a customer the close-up, you want to show specific details. This particular webcam does a great job on focusing on those details, seeing it so that it's seen crystal clear, so that you can get the best possible picture to your customer. So that's one of those things. It also comes within a built-in privacy shutter. And this privacy shutter allows you to easily just close. As you can see, it's red. That shows you that it's, and if I had this plugged in, this would also, the LED will flash red. So it lets me know. Now you can't see it, but on my monitor, I have one of these, and on it, it's closed at the moment and it's showing red. So I know nothing is transmitting over that particular webcam. But you can use it for presentations, whether you're using products or whether you're using documents. And the actual mount itself is very flexible, it's lightweight, so it can be mounted in a couple of other places. One other thing I wanted to point out about this, the mount that's on the bottom of this allows you to put it in as a fixed cam. And we've used this particular camera, this webcam, this P5, we've actually used it to shoot video for product demonstrations, because we can mount it on a tripod. So if you need an extra camera and you're shooting film, or you're doing some kind of classroom setting, and the regular mount itself doesn't work and you need to put it on a tripod, well, there you go. It comes in with a standard mounting screw, not screw, but the standard mount, so that if you wanted to use a camera tripod or something like that, you'd be able to use it for just that. Okay, so that's the P5. Hey, Ori, let's go to the P5. So now let's show you what you can do with this P5. Now that you've seen what that looks like, let's go to the footage of what this would look like if you had to use this compared to your standard laptop footage. There's a huge difference, and a lot of folks that are looking to upgrade their look and feel. Now let's stop it right there for a moment, Ori. Let's talk a little bit about why you would want to do this. If you are talking to customers and you need to show your face or your body or your products, you want to put the best foot forward. And with the P5, you get the ability at an entry-level price point to get a product that is far superior to many of the other products that are at the entry-level price. Now, if we look at on the left of two images, you have the P5. On the right, you have the standard webcam that is on the MacBook. So this footage was shot with the MacBook versus a P5. So on the left, the P5, the right, you have the MacBook webcam, which many people still have been on many Zoom calls and Microsoft Teams calls in the last 18 months, and this is what you get. So now on the left, you see you have a phone. It's very clear. You could see the buttons. You could see that there's another webcam that I have behind there. There's a headphones that are next to the object, next to the telephone. All of these objects are very clear in the picture. The other thing that's is very accurate is the color of those drapes. When this footage was shot, those drapes that were behind me were a gray color, whereas the MacBook footage on the right shows it at a very different type of color. It's not true to the actual color. You can see that the phone behind me, and by the way, this was all shot without any ring lights. So you can shoot really good quality video or do an online meeting. Even in this case, there were no lights that we used, no studio lights. It's just the only light really that is illuminating me is the light that's coming from the monitor itself that I'm looking at right now as I'm talking to you. And that's the only light that was available. And it still did a decent job. Now we will show you a video on how to improve that look when you're using lighting, because there's some tweaks that you'll want to make for these kind of webcams that have these enhanced optics in them for low lighting. And allows you to tweak it, and so you can look a little bit even better than what you're seeing right now. So, but I want to point out on the left again, you've got the P5. On the right, you have the MacBook, and look at how dark that image is. The image is very dark. It's hard to see the details around me. On the left, you can actually see, you can still see a lot of the objects are still quite sharp in terms of the contrast and in terms of the colors. Look at the difference in the t-shirts. You can actually read the word Skubana out really well. And it's true to the colors. Also, the skin tone is a little bit better, the resolution around the face. So all around you're getting, and look at the headset that I'm wearing, the headphones. You can make out those headphones very well. So if you were in the business like I am, which is selling those types of products to customers, and they want to see it, they will see this product much better. And when the customer can see the product better, obviously in this environment, sometimes they may not get to touch and feel it, but the visualization of how that looks. You know, I was reading some research on imagery, and the better something is presented, the easier it is for the customer to see themselves in that product, whether it's something that they're using or going to be using, the more likely they're going to buy. So if you work for a living, and whether you're selling yourself or a particular product, or you've got to do collaboration with coworkers, you want to show the product the best way you can. You know, we have a podcast called What the Tech, and I had a gentleman on. His name is Adam Mistrelli, and he said to me that he works at IBM. He said that they have gone all in on the virtual component, but not just virtual. That they've tried to turn this into an experience because people are during these times they want an experience. They don't just want a dull, boring video image to come through. And if you're in a competitive environment, in a competitive industry, whether you're selling services like IBM does, or you're selling other things, you want nothing left to chance. You want your brand to shine. And video is one way to do it. So much so that we're also seeing other industries adopt video as part of emailing. So a lot of little cottage industries are coming up and adopting this as a format for businesses. For example, you have Loom, you have Dub, and several other companies out there that are incorporating video as part of a sales cycle. So now if you're going to be sending video footage to a customer, why not send the best possible video? And at under $200, or can we go to the P5 listing so we can show the folks what that looks like on our Amazon store? All right, so Ori, my producer, is gonna pull up what this looks like. So on our Amazon store, you have a whole lot of information here that will help you in the way of getting the specs. We have additional videos, and all of this is to help you make a decision. We have a couple, just one review. It's a fairly new product. It does 1080p with a 4x zoom. So if you want good footage, it does that. Now, if you want to get to the 4K and you want to do 4K, then the P15, which we'll get to in a moment, that's the one for you. Now, I do see something here that I didn't point out earlier, which is also unique to the P5. You can come in on the close-up, Ori. On the P5, you have, and I'm going to try to bring it up closer, give it a few seconds here. Okay, hold on a second. I'm being told to do a manual focus. There we go. So on this P5, you have a compartment on the back. It's a USB compartment. So now if you've got one or two USB ports on your MacBook or your PC, this will not sacrifice that extra port that you've been using for something else. You get an additional port here on the back. So if you wanted to use a corded USB headset or some other device that requires USB, you have that right here on the P5. So that's something also unique to this P5. I haven't seen it on another entry level type of USB webcam. So kudos to Poly for pulling that off. Now, I do want to say something here that what I've found on most of the entry level models of webcams, if you scour the web, you will find that many of the reviews that are 1-star or 2-star are for one big reason: microphone quality. So if I were to use that P5 against some of the other products, it's going to do better. But when you're using a webcam, let's just talk about some physics. You know, I have this webcam, and if you come in and pull closer to the main shot, or if I've got this webcam and it is an audio device, as an endpoint, the further away it is from me, the worse the audio quality is going to be. Just pure physics. Obviously, if you're talking to it like a microphone, nobody's going to see you. But the further away, the more your voice has to project so that microphone can pick up. This is one issue that you'll find across many of these lower budget webcams. Simply the distance is too far, and the microphones aren't the greatest. That's why Poly put in a USB port on the back, primarily for you to use enhanced audio. So you can use a wireless headphones, as long as you have a Bluetooth dongle. And that Bluetooth long here, well, I'll just keep saying it. I know I've said this in other videos. You want to use a Bluetooth dongle if you're using a wireless headphones or wireless headset. It's gonna sound a lot better, gonna sound a lot cleaner. But if not, you can plug in a corded USB headset right to the back of this P5. So highly recommended for the audio piece. It's going to get you much cleaner audio. Again, we're all about trying to help you sound and look better so that you can convert, or if you're working with customers, they have no friction points that they can have objections about. So that is very important. You want to use that with a USB headset, wireless or corded. All right, Ori, do we have some additional footage on the P5, or did we go through all of that? Let's go to the close-up footage. So I want to show you what this looks like. So it's all about showing you how this product works. So we shot footage on the P5 using a remote that sits off on the side of my desk. And look at how, stop it there for a second, Ori. Look at how good the image is. So this is a surgical knife that you're looking at that's on top of a remote control that I have. You can read the word stainless, and it is really, really tiny. I have that same stainless. I'm going to show you here for a moment how that looks on the close-up cam. But what you're looking at is footage of the P5 webcam shooting very close, and I took it off. I dismounted, and I was moving it around remote control. I've got it right here. I've got both of those objects, and I was just shooting it very close so that you could see and if you're looking kind of really close to this image, you'll see you have braille markers, as I would call them, that are on the remote control. I had no idea that the remote control on the volume and on the channel had these kind of braille indicators on them until we shot this footage. I mean, and I've had this remote control for several years, but look at how clear the volume buttons look. Look at how the surgical knife, and on the knife itself, you see the word stainless. So I can pick up these really small details and keep them in focus as close up as you can possibly get them. That's about as close as I could get them without bumping into the objects. So go ahead and keep rolling it. The colors are also true to the colors. The white is white. The black are black. What you're also seeing on the surgical knife is kind of the reflection of the lights, so the studio lights that we have when we shot that footage. But in the background, you see a backdrop, a cloth backdrop that's on there, and I give you a little comparison, and it takes a couple of seconds for the autofocus to kick in. And this is something you can also tinker with. Stop it right there, Ori. This is something you can adjust in the app. There's an app that comes with this software that's called the Poly Lens, Lens. Poly Lens software will allow you to customize how this, there we go. Thank you for picking up on that, how you can adjust. So we've got a whole video on our YouTube channel where you can go in and we tell you exactly what to do in terms of how to tweak it. So if you're using studio lights like we do, you want to change the picture, it's not looking so good to you, because every environment is different. I'm in an environment where I have a little more lights, and that's something just to remember when you're using this or any other webcam for that matter. You may need to tweak it, and this is what sets Poly apart. They've got a software for you to tweak this, to control several settings so that you can get the best picture possible. And not only that, but this software also allows you to update it so that if they make future upgrades to the firmware, you get it for free. So this app is free, doesn't cost you anything, and you're going to come out looking a lot better. I love this before and after here. Is this the before and after, Ori, that's coming up? So we do a little before and after. So there's the before right out of the box, what it looked like, and then after we tweaked it. And then we also do the same for the P15. This is right out of the box and what it looked like and what it looked like afterwards. And we shot this whole footage using the P15, which we're going to show you here just in a moment here. But I wanted to tell you about this P5 and what you could do there with the P5. All right, so enough said about the P5. You get it. You get what's going on there. I highly recommend it. I've got it on my desk. If I were to pan around to the side, let me see if you can. No, you can't see it because you're seeing the other close-up cam. But I've got one right here sitting on my monitor. So now let's jump into the P15. P15 is a step up. So now, now for those folks that are moving around, and if you give me a second here, I'll take a little sip of water. Maybe you're in a classroom where you got to talk. Maybe you're a lecturer Maybe you're in a conference room and you have several participants, or what's called a huddle room. If you're in a huddle room and you've got a couple of people, you want something that's a step up that can track the different people that are in that room and focus in on those people. We're going to show you some footage of the P15 doing just that. Now, with the P15, you get several upgrades. You get that 4K capability. You also get the ability to have multiple people in a room, and it can focus in on those different people speaking. And you get a huge upgrade when it comes to the microphone quality. Actually, you have a microphone array. So let me show you what you get in the box. So right now, you're looking at the P15. It's got a little handle on it in the box, and somewhere there should be a sticker. Yeah, it does, on the side. It says P15. Obviously, this is a much bigger profile, so you can see it takes up the entire screen. All right, but I'm gonna reveal to you what you get with that P15. All right. Now, P15. Look at this guy. Wow. He may look a little bit intimidating because it's much bigger, but let me tell you, having used this, it's plug and play as well. And inside the box, it's going to come with all the cables that you're going to need to use it. Okay? So in the back, a couple of important things to point out about this just from the usage. All right, this one comes with 2 additional USB ports. So if you needed to use additional USB devices, you have that. You're going to be using a USB-C connector. So in the box, it's going to come with a cable for USB-C, but you're going to need to connect it to a USB-C port for it to stream those images from the device to to your to your laptop, to whatever application you're using. So USB-C, keep that in mind, and you get power supply. This one requires power because you're doing a lot more than just shooting video. You're going to get some high quality audio as well. In order to drive the speakers that are on here and the microphones, which I'm showing you here, you need more power. So it simply needs the power supply to drive all of those electronics. Otherwise, like with the P5, it's just a simple device. It doesn't need anything like that. Okay. You get this very nice audio. Look at this speaker. It's let's see, if I were to measure it here, it's not quite, it's a little more than an inch. If I'm looking at measurement, almost 2 inches. Almost 2 inches wide. Almost 2 inches wide in diameter. So you're going to get some really cool audio. It's got sensors on the front, so that it can sense where you're moving. So it can track your movement. Especially, this is really good if you're somebody that's in a classroom setting. Even if I've heard automotive situation where people are showing cars, cooking. If you're doing instructions on cooking or content creating around that, that's something that you'll have. So think of a director, a built-in director that's shooting movies, or the content is built inside. It's essentially enabling the tracking mode. You could also disable that if you didn't want to, but we're going to show you some footage for that in a moment. So you get quite a bit with this. This is something that 4 or 5 years ago would have easily cost $2,000 to $3,000. But it's what do we have it on the in the listing, Ori? Can you pull that up on the P15? And so my producer's gonna, what's that? There we go. So for about $600, you get something that would have been $3,000 with the technology that's built into it today. With the lenses, you also do get a privacy shutter as well on this. So it's built in, no need to use a tape or anything like that, or a little, an opaque kind of piece of plastic. It's built in. It closes the video signal, so nothing's going out when you close it. So I really love that little feature on this, on the 15, as well as the P5. So enhanced audio, enhanced microphones, right there. Stop it right there, Ori. So go back. No, go back to that part of the. So this is some right here. The sound. Go scroll down a little bit more. Right here. This is something important to point out. This device comes with the ability to filter out noises. Now, you're probably wondering, what the heck is... You can filter out the noises around you. So as you're talking into this is built what's called acoustic fence technology. Just think of a virtual fence around you. If you're outside of those blue beams that you see, you will not be heard. This was the problem I ran into when we first got these and I took it out of the box. I was walking around and people would tell me, I can't hear you. Well, it turned out I did not read the instructions very well or look at it very well, and that's why we have it in our website. This thing has the ability to have these sensors that can sense where you're at. And if you're outside of that cone, you will not be heard. Your voices or noises won't be heard. If you're in that cone, the audio goes right through. So acoustic fence technology makes a huge difference. So much so I had a colleague who lived near an airport, and she basically said that she had a tough time, this is before getting the 15, having people hear her clearly on the video conferences. She got this, the airplane noises and other noises, the people doing her landscape and whatnot, all of that went away. So if you have some of those issues in your environment, the P15 is a really good option for you. All right, Ori. So P15, let's show the folks what this does. Because there's one thing for me to tell you. Let's go and roll to the footage of the 15. We could do there we go. So let me tell you what you're looking at. What you're looking at here is footage of the P15 compared to the MacBook Pro and the Lenovo Thinkpad. These are two very popular laptops that people use today for many conferences, conference calls, web, Zoom, all the rest. And what you're getting with the P15, especially if you're giving a presentation or instructions, is the ability, as you're seeing here, the P15 can zoom in and provide you very clear pictures. And this is all being done by the software that's built in with the tracking software. So you have the ability to be zoomed in as you're talking. It can also zoom in on what you're doing in terms of the presentation. You want to go ahead and let some of the audio roll through so folks can hear some of that, Ori? Tom Brady at all costs. That's how we win. That is the equation that we need to get to more sales, okay? Winning, bandwidth, smiles. Everybody got it? Good. Morale's a little low. I want everybody at the office tomorrow, and I want you to bring your pet. Okay? Don't care what pet it is. Dog, cat, bring your pet. The next thing we want you to do is make sure they have clothes on. All right, clothes. Hey everybody, it's Chef Ro here today. And what we got today, What the Teck is bringing you a brand new coffee. Coming to your shelves. It's What the Teck Super Premium Extra caffeinated, hyper caffeinated coffee. This is the coffee you need to start your day. If you don't have this coffee to start your day, you can't do things right. You can't think. And what you want is when you're out working on your spreadsheets, that you have the best coffee possible in your cup. That's why I fully endorse What the Teck. What the Teck Super Premium Coffee. Get it today. I love that footage. We had so much fun shooting that day. I was really blown away. I had not used that P15 up until that point quite a bit, so I was not as familiar with all the features that it could do. We read the specs and all that, but when we get these devices, we won't know until we actually start using them how good or bad they are, and then start comparing them to other devices that we've used. And in this case, we just compared it to Lenovo laptop webcam as well as the MacBook Pro, and in all cases, it did an amazing job audio wise. The tracking capability, I was not familiar with the tracking capability, but it does that. It zooms into the object on its own. And so if you're doing a presentation, it just takes it that next level where most people are going to be using their laptops, and when you're using a laptop, you're getting that same image. And as you can see here, as we're showing you, that effect of just zooming in, that contrast, the ability to do all that, that gives the viewer an experience as if you're watching maybe a show or something on TV. Obviously, it doesn't do it exactly the same way, but the concept is the same because when you're watching a program and you're watching TV, you're getting different angles, different shots, and it keeps the viewer interested in what you're talking about and more engaged. So if you're in the business of trying to engage customers or colleagues, this gives you that added oomph, that extra edge that you wouldn't get from just a regular laptop or a regular, budget webcam. Not only that, but pause it right here, Ori. Oh, go back to that footage where you had it right here. Just pause it right here. Look at the difference here in just the video quality itself. Now you get a much wider view. Thank you. You get a much wider view on the P15 of what's happening. So much so that in this shot, the word studio and P15 are covering up my dog. Now, she's quite the friendly dog. She follows me all over the house, but she came into view because it has a much wider viewing angle. So if you're in a conference room, you're in a classroom, this is something that your folks are gonna appreciate because they're gonna be able to see everybody, as well as the ability to zoom in on the people speaking. That's the other thing. As you can see, then it starts zooming in. And this is the tracking feature. That's something that you can disable and enable depending on your needs. Now let's look at the video quality here. When you're talking about all three, the Lenovo and the MacBook, look at how dark the image on the MacBook Pro. And this goes back to the exact same thing we saw earlier in the P5 footage with how dark the image looks. And you really don't get to notice that until you can stack that up against other devices. I love the way how this P15, and I mean, I wasn't familiar with the track. Again, I wasn't familiar with the tracking, but the ability to zoom in on that object that I'm holding in my hand. And so if I'm, in this case, selling some pretend Global Tech coffee, the customer is more engaged in looking at it. And then and see how it pans out a little bit as I start moving the coffee away from me. That little extra nudge, that little effect as a viewer gives it just that panache, that extra polish that from a customer standpoint is a little bit more of a wow factor. And as you can see, this is the image all by itself. Roll it back a few seconds, Ori. Now stop it right there. So this gives you how wide that image is all around me. And if you start there, you get a lot. So obviously this is not a conference room, this is my kitchen, but you start with a lot of viewing. And I see there, there's my water. I did not think the water was going to be in the shot. I see my little one's shoes down there, all these things that, when you're looking back at the footage, you're like, oh yeah, I should have taken that out of there, but it didn't. It made it in there. Well, you get to see what's going on in my kitchen. It doesn't always look that way. Sometimes it's clean, sometimes it's not, but but in these other two, you don't get to see that. So depending on the environment, you can adjust these things as well. On the P15, you get the ability to do some manual adjustments. If you want to keep it in a tight shot or a wide shot, that's completely doable within the PolyLens app. All right, so Ori, that's the P15. So as we're talking about video today, Ori, you know what? Did we have anything on chat? I forgot to mention that. I don't have that on my monitor. No? We're good. We're good. All right. So on the P15, you have the ability to also use this with a headset. So that if you wanted some additional privacy, depending on your environment, depending on the type of things that you're talking about, sometimes privacy is a concern. Obviously, it shoots the audio out over the built-in speakers, but you have the flexibility to also use a headset, depending on the type of conversations you're having. And I've used it in both ways, with a headset and without a headset. Obviously, some conversations require some more sensitivity and privacy, and if that's you can still use a headset or headphones with this particular webcam as well. All right, the P15, I could go on and on. Oh, another thing, this particular webcam can also be used on a tripod. So if you needed to use it in a fixed location where you're not going to move it around and it's going to be pointed somewhere, it will do the job as well. So you can mount it on a standard camera tripod. Do not let the size intimidate you at all. I love this little guy. We've used it to shoot several videos on our YouTube channel because it does the job of shooting very good quality images. All right, so that's the P15, the P5. I want to just wrap up by saying if you have questions, or you go ahead to our listings. If you have questions on the P5 or the P15, and go ahead and click on the image. Oh, there we go. Just keep scrolling up and go to where you see the pricing, and then click, go ahead and go there and see all details. So if you're on our listing and you have questions about the product, whether it's the P15 or the P5, there's a place here for you to submit questions. You can either go in through your app, find Global Tech Worldwide, and you can send questions that way to us. You can also submit questions this way, and you can ask a question about, can this work with such and such? Or is this compatible with da-da-da? I want to do such and such. These questions get sent right to us. This is not answered by Amazon. This is answered by my team that are all certified to work with devices like this. All of our folks that are on the inside, essentially working for us within our office, they are all trained to answer these types of questions, technical support, and specifics about either the P15 or the P5. So if you have a question, this gets routed back from Amazon to us, and we disseminate that through our staff that are trained for those devices, and they will actually provide a response for you. So if you've got questions on these devices, feel free to send them and submit them through Amazon. Also, we have our phone number on there if you want to get a hold of us via telephone. We actually talk to people. We like talking to people. So go ahead and submit your questions that way too if you want to go ahead and get a hold of us that way. Otherwise, submitting it through the Q&A format on Amazon works just fine. And so today I want to thank you for joining me on this session of Tech 1-2, where we have every Wednesday around this time, we come to you live with products that we have on Amazon. We take your questions. If you have a question about a particular product or something in particular that you'd like to see, go ahead and submit it, and we may feature it in an upcoming segment. So I want to thank you today for joining me on Tech 1-2, and I will see you the next time.